Hey, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Soul Podcasting Podcast. I'm Demetria, and you already know I'm here to help you turn your voice into a platform that truly connects. But if you're new here, welcome to the show. We keep it real, we keep it fun, and we keep it all about helping you build a podcast that resonates. And for all my day one listeners, you already know how we do it. So thanks for rocking with me each and every episode. Now, if you caught our last episode, you know we started diving deep into the art of storytelling and why it's an absolute game changer for your podcast. We talked about how stories create connection, what makes a great story, and the key elements you need to master. But today, we're taking it up a notch. So in part 2 of our storytelling series, we're getting super practical. I'm breaking down exactly how to incorporate storytelling into your show, whether you're doing solo episodes, interviews, or narrative style content. And just because I love to leave you with actionable tips, I've got some bonus storytelling strategies just for content creators like you. So if you've ever wondered, how do I weave a compelling story into my podcast episodes, or how do I make my content more engaging without feeling forced? Well, then this episode is for you. So grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and let's get into it. So now that we know why storytelling is important and the elements that make it work, and if you haven't heard, you can go back to episode 34, we're going to talk about how you can actually incorporate storytelling into your podcast. And first off, I want you to start with a hook. And this is your first 30 seconds of your episode that should grab your listeners' attention. Think of it like a movie trailer. So what's the juicy detail, the shocking twist, or the teaser that'll make them want to keep listening? Most of the times I don't, especially on this show, have a kind of a teaser or trailer, but I do like to present you with what exactly I'm going to be sharing up front. And I don't want to keep you waiting forever to know what the show is about. Yes, it's in the title, and you wouldn't have clicked on play if you didn't think you were interested in the topic, but I still think it's important to kind of jump straight into the show's content. So start with the hook and kind of grab your listeners' attention. Sometimes, on a rare occasion, I will have a trailer type hook just to present what you'll be looking forward to hearing in the rest of the episode. And this is something that I've practiced more so on a few of my other shows, not so much this one, just because this one is more shorter and already pretty succinct and to the point. I usually don't have a trailer in my episodes on this show, but you'll hear some of that on some of my other shows if you are subscribed to Her Business Elevated. I've done that on occasion there. I've also done that for one of my faith-based podcasts called Christian Homeschool Moms, where I will maybe do a little teaser to show what the interview will be, sort of the highlights of the upcoming interview on the show. And that has proven to be helpful at times. So it's something you can do, starting with that kind of a hook, or even just a question that sparks interest, maybe something a little bit controversial, like whatever you need to do to spark interest in having your listener continue to listen to the rest of the show. Because remember, they're carving out time out of their schedule to listen to you. And so you want to make it worth their time, right? And then my second point for you, that was step number 1, start with a hook. But step number 2 is to use personal anecdotes. And we talked about this on episode 34. But again, I'm going to reiterate how important it is to use personal anecdotes or personal experiences that you're willing to share with your audience. Because whether you're teaching a lesson or sharing tips, weaving in those personal stories throughout is going to help you so much with the connection value. People love hearing how you overcame your challenges, how you found success, or how you learned a hard lesson or learned something the hard way, especially if you're stubborn like I am. You know, you might tend to learn lessons the hard way. And that has been kind of my thing throughout life. I tend to be the one that sort of hops into the fire and figures it out and then lets everyone know, here's what I figured out. And so this is how I've learned a lot of lessons, and I'm able to share them with my audience, whether it's in business or just in my personal life. So don't be afraid to make it real and share the highs and share the lows. Thirdly, create relatable characters. So whether it's you or your guest or a listener story, you want to introduce characters that your audience can connect with. So maybe it's you as a solopreneur facing the challenges of balancing work and family. That has been my case. And that's kind of the perspective I come from when I'm on my other show, Her Business Elevated. Or maybe it's a guest who's made an inspiring career change. And when I interviewed Danette Bui, who is a diversity coach and a talent development strategist, she is an awesome person. And I really enjoy talking with her over at my Her Business Elevated podcast. And what I love about Danny is that she was so relatable. She was willing to really just share her experiences in transitioning to her next phase of life and moving from the corporate into her business. And that transition was not an easy one, but it's something that we as business owners could relate to, coming out of the workforce and into our own careers that we're creating for ourselves. And so hopefully my listeners were able to connect with her on that level. So you'll want to create characters who are going through something that resonates with your listeners. And that's how you make your stories come alive. Also, don't forget to add a personal touch with some sound effects or some music, because if you're sharing a pivotal moment, you can use music, use sound effects to enhance that emotion. That's what music is for. And that's why I tend to use music liberally on my podcast. Just like a movie score sets the tone, adding sound effects to your podcast can make your storytelling more dynamic and memorable. So I'm going to give you a few storytelling tips before we wrap things up. And I have 4 tips for you. And the first is to just be authentic. It's just what it is. Don't try to craft a perfect story. You want to be raw and be real and be you. Your audience will connect with the truth behind your words. So you don't want to have some rehearsed version of yourself. You just be you, be authentic. Number 2, don't overcomplicate it. A story doesn't need to be elaborate or lengthy. It can just be as simple as what it is and to the point. Sometimes the best stories are the simplest ones. Focus on clarity and impact over complexity. And thirdly, you'll want to engage your listeners early and often. You want to keep your stories moving. But if you've ever heard a podcast where the story just drags on and on, you know how quickly you tend to lose interest. At least I do. So keep it a little fast-paced and interesting, and always keep the payoff in mind. What is it that you're hoping your audience will glean from your story? And just keep that story moving. Number 4, practice, practice, practice. Storytelling is a muscle, and you get better the more you use it and the more you get used to doing it. So start telling your stories and tell them often, and reflect on what worked and tweak as you go. This has been something I've been practicing for a long time. Actually, I've been podcasting for 20 years, and so I practiced storytelling for 20 years. But when I first started my shows, the only thing I knew to do was to share about my own experiences. And I think that is what has allowed me to just keep going, and actually has been my foundation for continuing to do the work, because it doesn't feel like work when I'm just sharing my life. It doesn't feel so difficult to talk about when I'm just talking about the truth of what I'm experiencing and what's going on in my world. And so that's what I want to encourage you to do, is to make this podcasting journey an easy one for yourself by just opening up and being vulnerable and sharing who you are, what you do, and how you do it, but deliver impact and allow for your experience to bring the quality to the table that you know you should be bringing, because you believe in what you are talking about. You're bringing your story to the table, and no one can take that from you because it's your story. And so just be yourself, be real, and be authentic. That's really all I have today on the art of storytelling. And I believe this can make your podcast stand out from the crowd. And I hope you're feeling inspired to bring more stories into your episodes. Remember, your story is your superpower. So if you're loving these tips, don't forget to connect with me on Instagram and let me know how you're incorporating storytelling into your podcast. I'm also attempting to kind of step my toes into the waters a bit more of LinkedIn. I've been meaning to do this more and more so. It just has not been, a habit yet. that I've gotten accustomed to. I've posted a few things here and there on LinkedIn, but I haven't really been as engaged. And I would like to become more engaged in LinkedIn, as I think that it might end up being my choice for my social media platform that I like the best, because currently Instagram, unfortunately, is not my favorite place to be. I'm there, I have a presence there, but I just don't hang out there very often. So be looking for me on LinkedIn if that's something that you like. You like LinkedIn. And my handle there, of course, is my name, Demetria Zinga. And I'd love to just see you around. And also, I am doing a lot of videos on YouTube, so you can also find me at my name, Demetria Zinga, on YouTube. If you're also a woman solopreneur in business, I do have a special subsidiary podcast just for you guys, and that's called the Her Business Elevated podcast. You can listen to that for more actionable strategies on growing your business. Until next time, you guys, thank you so much for listening. Keep sharing your voice, keep shining, and keep telling your story. And I will see you in the next episode. Happy podcasting.